Well, my name uh, is Donald, and I live in Colwyn Bay in North Wales at the moment. I've been brought up with a Christian belief which said, "Thou shalt not kill."
Mm.
And of course, Sermon on the Mount had been taught to me and had read. And the whole principle of Christianity was completely against this, against war, really, violence. I think it was 1940, 41. I would be about 15 years of age. And my parents happened to have a musical instrument business on the main street in the town close to Manchester. Just one incident, we sort of went out to see what had happened. And of course, we could hear the planes flying overhead, the German planes and so on. And it was so light, we couldn't understand it. This was perhaps 2 o'clock in the morning, I don't know what exactly, but it was pitch black, of course, normally. And yet, so I went back into the house and I found a piece of a newspaper, an old newspaper, and I was able to read the paper by the light of the fires which were raging in Manchester at the time. An electric train line, still is, from Bury to Manchester. It went through our town, so I got on that. Getting near Victoria Station, which is the Manchester station, there was a big warehouse. I think it was called Baxendale. It was a massive warehouse, really big warehouse. And it was in flames. And the train line ran perhaps a distance of perhaps 50 yards away from this. And the heat from the fire was so great. Everyone on the window side where the fire had to move across the other side. They couldn't stand the heat. It was incredible. But when I got to the station, of course, it meant traveling across part of Manchester up through town, which had shocking bombing. I mean, there's glass and rubble all over the streets and everything. And I had to go to what's called Shude Hill, people may know. And that's where a lot of these sort of businesses are, do you see? And of course, I thought, as I was going along there, I thought, what an absolutely shocking waste of everything. It is life and property and so on. And to what end? By the time I got to the age where a very serious decision has to be made, because your whole life is before you, what do you do? And I'd given a lot of thought to it before I decided I wished to register as a CO. But I couldn't see myself being placed in the position of perhaps having to kill someone else or support the killing of someone else. I'd been brought up a Quaker and attended our meetings. And I do remember sort of a short time before having to make a decision about this, as you probably know, that Quakers have a silent meeting for worship. And I do remember it was very much in my mind about making an honest decision about what I should do once I was called up, you see. And I remember one particular meeting, it must have come to a climax, having to make a decision. And I don't know whether I can call it a calling from God as such, but it certainly, I was given some sort of a lead, sort of suggesting that I was being, my opinion of what I was thinking I should do was the right thing to do. So whether that was a calling from God, one doesn't know. But it was the nearest thing to what I think we could call that. Well, what happened, I registered as a CO, I think it was about May 1943. You had the forms which you received to register as a conscientious objector. You asked to make a statement of your reason for registering as a CO, which can be placed before a tribunal, which was booked in Manchester before a judge, is actually someone called Judge Burgess, which would mean nothing to you, but it meant a lot to me because he was well, some people called him the hanging judge because, of course, there was the death penalty at the time and he hadn't a very good reputation in that respect. So I was obviously rather concerned about how he would accept my statement and how he would be at the tribunal. At the tribunal, you have a High Court judge he was, and I think there were 3 other members of the panel. I think one of them is usually a military person and the other 2 are different organizations. They have to try to assess whether you are a genuine conscientious abductor or just wanted to get out of things, you see. Well, I made my statement, and having done that, then you have to face the tribunal and answer their questions. And I think quite often some of them are trying to catch you out. I was given condition exemption. I've been looking into, of course, thinking what I should do during the war, because I wanted to be of some help to the community. The Friends Relief Service, which isn't heard of as much, but in fact has been doing the work for a longer time, Quaker sort of relief work longer than, but I did lose some of my wider associations with, I mean, some of my earlier friends who had been very strongly connected to, they couldn't understand my point of view and weren't prepared to continue friendship. So I did lose some friends, unfortunately. She supported me through, which wasn't easy for a young woman to support a boy who wasn't going to go into the services. So she had difficulties with some of her friends, you see, who were sending letters backwards and forwards virtually all the time. To have someone who was still prepared to stay your friend, you know, through whatever, all the time I was away. You know, I've got 2 sons, 6 grandchildren, and a great-granddaughter. And it worries me to think that they may have to grow up in a world where similar circumstances to what I experienced, but very much worse because of the various technologies that are involved, nuclear weapons and these drones and so on. And somehow or other, the world has to find a way to stop wars occurring. Wars just are evil, but they don't, even from a practical point of view, they don't work. It produces just more war.